She was described as the sexiest dancer I've ever seen by Frank Sinatra. Throughout the filming process, Elvis Presley couldn't take his hands off her. The shocking love triangle of Juliet Prowse is eventually revealed 50 years later. She was seeing other people besides these two celebrities. She was simultaneously sleeping with both of them. Before she passed away, she finally acknowledged that she and Elvis had an affair. However, it wasn't her greatest secret. You'll be astounded to learn the truth about the person she truly loved and the child no one knew about. In Bombay, British India, on September 25, 1936, Juliet Prowse was born. Her father was Reginald Morley Prowse, a traveling salesman of English and South African descent. Although she was born in India, her mother, Phyllis Thelma Dawn, had English ancestry. Bombay was a bustling British colonial city at the time. A diverse range of customs, a burgeoning economy, and several cultures coexisted there. Juliet's time in India, however, was brief. The death of her father occurred when she was only 3. Everything changed after he died. With 2 small children to look after, Juliet's mother had to make a tough choice. In pursuit of security and assistance, she relocated the family to South Africa. Before relocating to Johannesburg, they briefly resided with family in Durban. Although this metropolis was expanding quickly and offering many new opportunities, it was still segregated by stringent racial restrictions. The most significant shift for Juliet was not the location but rather the new route that lied ahead. She had a natural affinity for movement. Seeing it early, her mother signed her up for ballet lessons at the age of 4. An activity that began as simple soon evolved into something more. Juliet was born with a gift. Her teachers saw it immediately. She had a natural grace, picked things up fast, and shown a strong affinity for dance. It was more than just obedience. She was able to move to convey her feelings. In a way that was unique. By the age of 14, she had already accomplished a remarkable feat. She joined Johannesburg's Festival Ballet Company as one of its youngest members. The top young dancers were the only ones who performed in this esteemed ensemble. With her training in traditional ballets such as Swan Lake, Capilia, and Les Sylphides, everything appeared to be going smoothly. She possessed the desire, the talent, and the discipline. But she was turned down by Anton Dolan when she applied to the esteemed London Festival Ballet. Her height of about 5 feet 8 inches made her unsuitable for ballet. Even though that rejection might have meant the end of her career, she persevered and found a different path. Performers with a strong stage presence were welcomed in show dancing, and Prowse possessed that. In plenty. The change wasn't simple. She had studied classical ballet, which places a premium on technique and accuracy. It took a different kind of energy to do show dancing. Instead of blending in with the crowd, it was more dramatic, more expressive, and more about grabbing attention. She needed to relearn how to move and adjust. How she may maximize her unique qualities. Her distinct approach soon gained recognition once she began playing in nightclubs throughout Europe. She became famous for her characteristic high kicks, which helped to define her. Her uniqueness was acknowledged in show dance, but ballet had rejected her. She quickly rose to the top of the circuit's most sought-after performers list. It was in 1955 that she made her debut. She had made a name for herself as a nightclub singer throughout Europe by that point. When she tried out for Gentleman, Jack Cole, a highly regarded choreographer in Hollywood, took notice of merry brunettes. Cole had collaborated with Marilyn Monroe and other top celebrities of the era. He recognized Prowse's unique talent when he saw her perform. Despite having only one appearance in the movie, she left a lasting effect. Cole asked her to return to his work. She was given the chance to play Princess Samaras in the London production of Kismet. One of the most memorable parts of the performance was her solo dance to Not Since Nineveh. Over the course of the 20-month production, Prowse's performance was exceptional. She had demonstrated that she was more than just a nightclub performer by the end of the performance. She was a real stage star now. Hollywood was paying attention, and she was prepared to move forward. However, just as everything appeared to be going smoothly, she encountered yet another difficulty. Ankle injuries sustained in a motorbike accident occurred while she was performing at the renowned La Nouvelle Eve nightclub in Paris. Such an injury could spell the end of a dancer's career. Strength and control were essential for every movement. Everything she had worked for was at jeopardy when she suffered an ankle injury. Prowse didn't let the challenging recovery deter her. Returning to La Nouvelle Eve with even more resolve, she battled her way back. The club was the ideal setting for her to recover her strength. It was a place where she could display her special talent and was renowned for its daring and inventive performances. Her physical recuperation was only one aspect of her comeback. Proving that nothing could stop her was the goal. The path to Hollywood for Juliet Prowse began with a turn of events. She began dancing in nightclubs in Paris in the late 1950s, not realizing that her life would soon alter. One evening, renowned Hollywood choreographer Hermes Pan, who has worked with Fred Astaire and other celebrities, was among the crowd. He was in Europe looking for new performers for a musical called Can. In 1960, he realized Prowse had a unique talent the instant he saw her dancing. He quickly suggested her to 20th Century Fox. She was chosen for the movie because of that recommendation. Celestine, a dancer, had a little part initially, but Destiny had other ideas. Another dancer, Barry Chase, had to withdraw during pre-production. An unforeseen circumstance created a window of opportunity, and the studio acted swiftly. Rather than hiring a new actor, they gave Prowse a new character called Claudine and increased her screen time. After that transformation, she moved from being a supporting actor to sharing scenes with the biggest names in Hollywood. She now accompanied Frank Sinatra in speaking engagements. McLean Shirley and Chevalier Maurice. It became evident that Prowse was more than just a gifted dancer when filming started. There was no denying her presence on film. Wearing a glittering blue-green snakeskin, she played the snake in the Adam and Eve dance sequence, one of her most memorable performances. Holding a red apple, she glided down the branches of the Tree of Life with entrancing ease. The scene had a captivating effect. Frank Sinatra was surprised, too, having worked with some of Hollywood's most glitzy stars. The sexiest dancer I've ever seen, he later referred to her. The critics concurred. Nearly all viewers of Can complimented Prowse's performance, despite the film's divided reviews. This was her big break in Hollywood, and everybody noticed. However, her success was not solely due to her skill. It was one production moment that made her a global celebrity. During the filming of Can, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev paid a visit to the location in September 1959. He was on his historic U.S. tour at the time. He learned about American culture and met President Dwight Eisenhower there. As a courtesy, the producers of the movie asked him to attend a Can dance practice. The concept sounded straightforward. Take one of the most influential guys in the world and show him a timeless form of entertainment. However, nobody could have foreseen what would happen next. High kicks were a hallmark of the performance. Voluminous skirts and daring choreography that showed off the performer's underwear. To Khrushchev, it was something quite different, even though it was lively and joyful. Later, he expressed his feelings, but he sat through the practice with little response. In a press conference, he described the performance as immoral, repulsive, and lascivious. In Soviet society, he said, such a show had no place. His remarks made international news. Can was one of the year's most talked about movies almost immediately. Pictures of Juliet Prowse dancing were published in newspapers all around the world. Khrushchev came under fire from some quarters for going overboard. It was perceived by others as a cultural conflict. In any event, Prowse achieved a degree of notoriety that few newcomers could ever hope for thanks to the debate. When she looked back years later, she thought the whole thing was weird. Khrushchev appeared to appreciate the show during the performance, even applauding along at points. It never occurred to her that he would later denounce it so severely. However, whether he was expressing political disapproval or genuine disapproval, the outcome was the same. Her name was now known to everyone. But news stories weren't solely about Khrushchev's remarks. The tabloids couldn't get enough of the new phenomenon in Hollywood. She was young, stunning, and extraordinarily gifted. Then the romance allegations surfaced. Prowse and Frank Sinatra became close while filming Can, and talk of their friendship quickly spread. Sinatra was enchanting. They became engaged in 1962 after he included her in 2 of his TV programs. In the same year, she co-starred with Elvis Presley in the box office success GI Blues, 1960. She had already gained notoriety at the time due to Can, 1959. In addition to her dancing, that movie made her renowned because Nikita Khrushchev, the premier of the Soviet Union, deemed her performance immoral. She gained attention from the scandal and quickly became a rising celebrity in Hollywood. While the studio made a fortune, she only made $300 a week when she was loaned to Paramount from 20th Century Fox for GI Blues. There was no denying her chemistry with Elvis on set. Because of how intense their kissing moments were, Norman Taurog, the director, had to intervene and encourage them to calm down. the atmosphere off-screen was as intense. Prowse later acknowledged that he had an affair with Elvis. Like two young, healthy people, we were attracted to each other sexually, but he was already a victim of his followers. We never went outside, we always met in his room. She claimed that their relationship was never serious and that they only occasionally went out together, such as to see Tony Bennett perform live. She declined to re-star with Elvis in 1961's Blue Hawaii when his management asked her to do so. The studio didn't like that she insisted on having her own secretary and cosmetics artist since she felt the job was too superficial. Despite being suspended by 20th Century Fox, she refused to back down. She didn't want to merely be a romantic interest, whether on or off screen. The brief affair with Elvis was finished, and with it, any possibility of their collaborating once more. In the meantime, she and Frank Sinatra had a brief relationship. It ended 6 weeks after Sinatra proposed to her. She refused to give up her career as he requested. "Frank wants me to sell the company," she informed Hedda Hopper, a journalist. "I'm having a little trouble with it." For years, Prowse had been striving for fame. Not even for Sinatra was she going to give it up. Despite being amicable, their split exposed a more serious issue. Hollywood women were not supposed to be self-sufficient. It was expected that they would fall in love, get married, and go on. That was not what Prowse was willing to do. She had conflicting thoughts about her time with Sinatra years later. "I was as infatuated as I was flattered," she conceded. Described him as a multifaceted character who was charming but challenging after drinking. In spite of everything, Sinatra continued to play a significant role in her life. Their tale became one of the greatest romances in Hollywood history, but it also demonstrated Prowse's uniqueness. She was a woman of her own volition. She refused to be Mrs. Frank Sinatra when offered the opportunity. In a time when women were supposed to choose between ambition and love, she made the decision for herself. That choice solidified her legacy and molded her life. Although Juliet Prowse possessed the skills and charisma necessary to become a Hollywood star, the industry never provided her with the proper opportunity. She starred in The Fiercest Heart, a historical adventure film from 1961 that took place in South Africa in 1837. The movie, which also starred Stuart Whitman, ought to have been a significant advancement. Rather, it was just another standard production that didn't really advance her career. She played Rena Mitchell in the comedic western the second time around, which she co-starred in with Debbie Reynolds the same year. Reynolds was a well-known star, and the movie had charm, but Prowse's part was shallow. Her brilliance was once more underutilized. Her 20th Century Fox deal presented her with the greatest obstacle. She had agreed to a 7-year contract that would let the studio use her for other projects. She therefore had little influence over the parts she performed. She was so frustrated by these restrictions that she declined to play Elvis Presley in Blue Hawaii, believing the character lacked depth. As a result of the ruling, Fox suspended her, endangering her professional future. Furthermore, Hollywood viewed her primarily as a dancer rather than a serious actress. She had dazzled audiences with her roles in GI and Can-Can Blues, but she found it difficult to land leading or serious roles. Her career in movies had stagnated by the middle of the 1960s. She chose to give television a try in 1965. In the NBC sitcom Mona McCluskey, she played a glamorous Hollywood actress who was married to Denny Miller's character, an Air Force sergeant. The conflict between his modest military existence and her well-known career was the main subject of the show. The idea behind it was intriguing, but there was a problem. In opposition to Peyton Place and CBS's Thursday Night Movie, two of the most watched shows at the time, it aired on Thursday nights. The competition caused its ratings to decline. Backstage, the concert got a lot of support. George Burns served as its producer, and Sal Monio and Patrick Knowles were among its guests. Despite her efforts, Mona McCluskey was short-lived. After one season, it was discontinued on April 14, 1966. Prowse seemed unfazed by the disappointment. "Generally, things happen for the best," she stated afterwards. "Since I constantly have other things to do, I never worry about what occurs in my profession." That something else was theater. Prowse resorted to theater since he had fewer opportunities in movies and TV. She appeared in several sweet charity shows, including one in 1967 and another in 1971. Her portrayal as Charity Hope Valentine was praised. She also played important parts in Kismet, participating in its London staging in Irma la Douce, which she performed at several locations from 1963 to 1968. The life of Juliet Prowse was full of obstacles, passion, and ambition. She was in the spotlight because of her work, but she also had a complicated personal life. She had a son and was married twice, and encountered difficulties that tried her fortitude. In 1969, she wed dancer and choreographer Eddie Frazier. Although their marriage lasted only 8 months, their mutual passion of dancing may have appeared to be a solid basis. Irreconcilable conflicts were the reason for their divorce, however the specifics were never disclosed. Actress and dancer Prowse was already well known at the time. He appeared with Frank Sinatra in the 1960 film Can and with Elvis Presley in the following year's GI Blues. Because of her fame, she was constantly in the spotlight, which can strain any relationship. She got married again in 1972. It was actor John McCook this time. An earlier date was initially set for their wedding, but something unforeseen occurred. On the day of their planned marriage, August 2, 1972, Prowse gave birth to their son, Seth McCook. Later that year, they got married after delaying the wedding by 5 weeks. 7 years passed during their marriage. Later, McCook gained notoriety for his role as Eric Forrester on The Bold and the Beautiful. Prowse kept working, juggling motherhood with a lucrative job that kept her in high demand. Through their son, they maintained a relationship even after their divorce in 1979. McCook was married again and had 3 more kids, giving Seth half-siblings. In the meantime, Prowse continued to perform and remained committed to raising Seth. In addition to being voted Entertainer of the Year, she was the headliner of stage plays and Las Vegas performances. She had a strong commitment to her art, even when life presented her with unforeseen difficulties. Juliet Prowse was getting ready for the 2009 season of Circus of the Stars, a show in which famous people did daring circus acts. Instead of trying the trapeze, she had decided to work with huge cats, joking that she might lose an arm, but at least she wouldn't break a leg. Her training at California State University, Northridge, however, took a horrifying turn during the 4th week. She was working with 3 panthers and 2 leopards when Sheila, an 80-pound leopard, attacked her out of the blue. The large cat's jaws were perilously close to her carotid artery when it lunged at her neck. Trainers hurried in, tears streaming from the wounds. Prowse was promptly transported to Granada Hills Community Hospital, where medical professionals sutured her wounds. She was freed in half an hour after requiring just 5 stitches. Despite the vicious attack, she resisted giving up. She calmed everyone around her and insisted on going on with rehearsals instead of freaking out. It was the first attack of its kind in the history of Circus of the Stars. It had never been a dangerous show, but no one had ever been mauled. Later, Sheila's trainer said that the leopard had no intention of killing Prowse. Occasionally, large cats will bite with play or affection, but this playful bite almost killed the victim. After an encounter like that, most individuals would have left. However, on December 2, 1987, 2 months later, Prowse was at NBC Studios in Burbank, practicing for Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. The purpose of the section was to showcase her work with leopards that were not in cages. Sheila was behind her as she stood. The large feline rested its forepaws on her shoulders. Then, suddenly, it happened again. Sheila caused severe injuries by biting Prowse's neck and ear. The injuries were far more severe this time. More than the initial attack, she required 30 stitches. Prowse's modest head movements set off the leopard's instincts, according to witnesses, and the animal reacted. They were in disbelief. Despite being assaulted twice by the same leopard, she had consented to cooperate with it. Prowse didn't blame Sheila or her trainers, even after 2 violent meetings, but she knew she couldn't risk anything like this again. She came to a conclusion. Never again would she handle anything bigger than an alley cat. Juliet Prowse was a performer who never stopped. She maintained her reputation as a musical theater star throughout the 1970s and 1980s, playing parts that demonstrated her ability to be both an actress and a dancer equally. During this period, Mame and the Pajama Game were 2 of her most well-known roles. In the late 1960s, she made her debut as the title character in Mame. Based on the book by Patrick Dennis, the musical portrayed the tale of a free-spirited woman who adopts her nephew who is an orphan. Prowse made numerous comebacks to the part, including a significant one in the early 1990s. She had more life experience by that point and related to the character on a deeper level. As a mother, she had a newfound understanding of Mame's emotional journey. Music such as If He Walked Into My Life acquired new significance. The revival, which was directed by her former co-star John Bobe, demonstrated her development as a performer. Next up was the Pajama Game. In 1973, Prowse played the lead in a show that needed intricate dance moves and great comedic timing. Her experience as a professional dancer made it appear effortless. Her performance was lauded by critics and audiences alike for her enthusiasm. But she didn't end there. She starred in several musicals, such as Irma la Duke and Sweet Charity. She repeatedly shown that she was capable of playing any part. On this occasion, she also rose to prominence in Las Vegas. She performed at some of the most well-known establishments in the city, where she was the star of shows that included humor, dancing, and music. She won numerous awards as a result of her popularity, including Las Vegas Performer of the Year. She had a talent for engaging audiences, which elevated each performance. Prowse was frequently seen on TV as well. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, she made appearances on popular TV specials and variety shows. She played roles like Samantha Bricker and Faye Marsh in her guest appearances on The Love Boat between 1979 and 1984. One of the most popular celebrity guest stars on the show was Prowse. Additionally, she collaborated with such renowned performers as Perry Como and Bob Hope. She performed with Lucille Ball and Bing Crosby on The Bob Hope Show in 1962, taking part in musical numbers and comedic routines. Her charisma and stage presence were adored by audiences, and she continued to be a popular guest on variety shows far into the 1980s. In an effort to raise awareness of ballroom dancing, she even presented PBS's championship ballroom dance competition in the middle of the 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s. However, 1995 was one of her career's most significant turning points. Despite her battle with pancreatic cancer, she made a comeback to the stage with Sugar Babies at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas. The performance was a comedy and dance-filled musical homage to vintage burlesque. In 1994, Prowse had a cancer diagnosis, but it was cured long enough for him to assume the position. She got back together with Mickey Rooney, who had played the lead in the Broadway version in 1979. Juliet was a talented dancer and actress who captivated audiences on stage and cinema. Her life, however, was drastically altered in 1994 when she was given a pancreatic cancer diagnosis. The illness had a reputation for being aggressive and having a low survival rate. She refused to let the awful diagnosis to control her life. She battled valiantly, and in 1995, her cancer went into remission despite all odds. She returned to the stage in a spectacular fashion that year. Alongside Mick Rooney, she performed in Sugar Babies, demonstrating that she still possessed the vigor and fire that made her famous. She persisted despite the pain, fatigue, and weight loss that pancreatic cancer causes. Her passion for acting overcame her sickness. Her illness returned stronger than ever, so she gave her admirers one more chance to see her live. Her cancer returned violently in 1996. No recovery was made this time. Her condition rapidly deteriorated. She also died on September 14, 1996, at her residence in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. Her 61st birthday came in just 11 days. It was a tragic conclusion for someone who had lived her life with such power and grace. A career spanning 4 decades came to an end with her death. She had starred in GI Blues opposite Elvis Presley and danced with Frank Sinatra in Can-Can. She had been a star on theater and television, but she was also a mother, a daughter, and a loved one. Her son Seth McCook, born August 2, 1972, was her surviving child. He was born to her and actor John McCook, with whom she got divorced in 1979. Even after they parted ways, John continued to play a significant role in Seth's life. Her mother, brother, and lifelong friend, BJ, also survived Prowse. Alan. They provided her with love and support as she approached her latter years. To give her loved ones a chance to say farewell, a private memorial service was organized in her honor.